everyone, I'm Allie. Join me in creating these fun wire Christmas ornaments, or really pendants, and a set of earrings out of some simple crystals and 2 gauges of wire. So to create these fun trees, the beads are just an add-on. All you really need is the wire. Once you get the wire, you can use anything that you have, whether or not you're looking to use crystals or using some gold spacer beads, or even adding in some bigger bicones like I'm gonna do to feature some lights on my tree. The wire gauges that I would suggest for this tree are gonna be 20 gauge for our form or the outer edge. And then you use 26 gauge for bending around and creating that little swag lines of our tree branches. Having handy, nice as always, are your round nose pliers when you're working with wire, your needle nose pliers, and your wire cutters. We're gonna be using those, and I'm also gonna throw in at the top of my new tree one of these Zamic gold stars, getting that really effect. And like I said, adding in some more bigger beads. The majority of our crystals are going to be a 2mm bicone, and I'm using the fern color, and then gonna add in, again, some 4mm to make it just pop a little bit bigger. So to get started, gather all your materials, and then we're gonna get ready with our 20 gauge wire to create our form. So I've taken my 20 gauge wire and measured out a total of 9 inches, and then used my wire cutters to cut that wire off the spool. What I'm going to do now is create the bottom of my tree, and then we're gonna work our way up on the tree itself. To create the bottom of the tree, you can use your round nose pliers, or if you want the trunk to be a little bit bigger, or you want to do an even bigger tree for an ornament, you can grab something like a pen or a Sharpie and bend around. I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, and I'm going to the biggest section of the bottom of my round nose pliers, halfway between the edges of my wire, so 4.5 inches on each side. I'm going to take my wire, and I'm going to go around that round nose pliers till I have my loop in the center and equal amounts of wire on each side. The width of the bottom of your tree is going to depend on how big you want it. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to put my tree right at the center of my 2-inch mark, and I'm going to bend it so that it's 1 inch long on either side. So it's going to be slightly bigger than my sample piece. Grabbing your needle nose or chain nose pliers, hold it right there at that 2, go into your 3, and bend the wire up. Going over again, holding that at the 2. I find it easier to work with my right hand, so I'm going to flip it, lay that down, get that 2 in there, and there's my 1. Go over to that 3, and once again, bend that wire up. If it's slightly off and not the exact same size, it does not matter. Your Christmas tree can be just as unique as you want it to be. So you're seeing this is going to be bigger than my sample piece, going from a pendant almost to an ornament. So whether or not you're going with earring, pendant, or ornament size, tons and tons of fun creating this. The size of your tree then, how you want it to be, whether or not you want it very squared, whether or not you want it very long, is up to you. I'm going to make my tree go pretty long. So I want mine more of an isosceles triangle, long on one side, short on the other. From here, my shorter end, if one happened to get a little bit shorter, that's okay, whichever one is shorter, I'm going to bend around the longer piece. So I'm just doing this with my hands, but if you need to, you can take your pliers and do it, and I'm wrapping it around the other side of the wire 1 time. From here, I'm going to take my wire cutters, cut that smaller piece of wire that's connected right there to the tree, and then take my needle nose pliers and just pinch that down so we don't go in and stab ourselves at all. Once we have that tree form then, I'm going to go into the top here. If you know that you want it to be a pendant, you can make that loop turn to the side. If you know that you need it facing forward for a set of earrings, you can do so. What I'm going to do is hold my round nose pliers for my little ornament here so that it's, again, right at that biggest spot of the round nose pliers. The wire is going through the middle of the 2 jaws of the pliers, and I'm going to bend around the top here, opening it up slightly and getting it so that way it goes right there along the top. Now in this little one, I did a little coily Q around the top for the sample piece that I'm doing, because I have a star that I'm doing for this ornament, or whether or not you're doing the earrings or the pendant. I'm going to twist around 1 time, just like we did with the smaller wire. We're going to twist that piece right around the top. And go ahead then and trim that piece down. that just became the wire of my tree. If you're not sure exactly what size you want this to be, whether or not you want it to be 1.5 inches, or you want it to be 3 inches, or you want this to be 5 inches, up to you how long or how big or how puffy or how thin you want your tree to be. You can always take a piece of cardstock along with a pen or a marker and draw your tree to the size that you want it to be. Use it as a template, and then you know exactly how far or how long you're going to measure everything, and you have that right there ready to go. What we're going to do now is we are going to decorate our tree. So we're going to decorate our tree with some 26 gauge wire. And this is a decent sized tree. He's a little puffier here than my isosceles one. Here I used about 2 feet of wire. Here I used about 12 inches of wire. And here I'm going to use about 3 feet of my wire. So I'm going to take my wire here, get that spool, get that length that I need, grab my wire cutters, and simply cut the wire. We're going to begin our tree, and again, we're going to use the smaller fern to be our main bead. You can use 8 OC beads, you can use 6 OC beads, 11 OC beads. I love how the little 2s really glisten and sparkle. And what we're going to do is we are going to wrap the wire, this thinner gauge wire, around our base or our form. I'm always going to be wrapping the wire so that the smaller or the new piece of wire gets wrapped up. So I'm going to take this wire here, I have about 1/2 inch there, and I'm going to wrap that 1/2 inch piece down. So I'm starting toward the top loop, and I'm wrapping that 1/2 inch piece down 3 times around the left side of my tree. I'm going to go in then and cut off that extra little piece. You can say, shouldn't I go through and twist that little piece? You can, but honestly, when you're twisting that little piece and you're getting that little piece going, it's going to poke you more often than not. So go ahead and just pinch that down. I'm going to take my needle nose pliers then, pinch those 2 pieces together, and push that down towards the bottom of the tree. Once we load on some of our crystals to go the whole way across the tree here, we're going to wrap and coil up 2 coils and over to the other side. I'm going to go ahead, get out my supplies, and start to add in my beads along the way. To add in the beads, I'm again using that 2mm bicone. I'm going to add in some Christmas lights since this one's a little bit bigger, more ornament size than pendant size. And I have 5 crystal colors that remind me of those traditional big bulb Christmas lights in the sun, sapphire, the sunflower, olivine, and in the crimson. So those I'm going to get a couple out of. And then I also have some gold beads here, just to add a little bit of gold in that mixed metal look. I'm using 2x3mm rondelles in the 24 karat gold plated spacer beads. So go ahead and get little piles out there, and we will start adding some pizzazz to our tree. Once you have your beads lined up so that they stretch across the base of that tree, you're going to be bringing your wire to the outside of the tree. And you'll notice that I used the gold bead to almost look like the little metal on the Christmas lights there of the bicones. And I'm getting the whole way over, and I'm making sure I'm not too far over on the piece. Once again, we're going to wrap the wire toward the top. So it's a long piece of wire getting that 3 feet through there, going through the piece, wrapping around once. And the 26 gauge, the reason I'm using it is because it's very forgiving. It's very light, easy to bend with that nice dead soft wire. I'm going to wrap it around once. I'm going to wrap it through there one more time. And then I'm going to bring the wire to the back of the tree. So I'm constantly going to be flipping from the front to the back as I go in and add my next row of my lights. Once I add my next row that extends across the tree here, which is always going to get a little bit smaller and smaller and smaller as you build up, I'm going to wrap 2 times around the right side and then once again go over towards the left, stringing my lights and my tree as I go. So as you're creating, it's always the exact same thing where you're going along the piece to the way that it fits, taking your wire through the piece once, taking your wire through the piece twice, and usually, honestly, I do it the easiest. From here I bend and then I pull the wire through. Once that wire is through, those 2 pieces are pinched together, you're right back ready to do your next piece of garland. And you can see how I'm spacing out those little Christmas bulbs that I'm not using them a ton. I want that green to still be the focus. I did the same thing when I just used the gold beads. And then for the sake of the earrings, I kept it very, very simple. So just kind of adding a little bit of a pattern just to show the variety as I go through and create this tree. I'm going to keep going and adding on more and more branches. When you get to the last part of your tree, you are going to have the opportunity, if you want to grab a star bead. So again, we have these Zamex star beads. I'm going to take one of these star beads, and they sit a little funky, so they're on an angle, so that way the hole kind of goes through the middle, but it's a star, so it's 5 points there. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put it right at the top of my tree. So it's right at that tree topper, basically. And because of that, it is going to wrap right over that little section there where we twisted the wire. That star is going to fit right at the top there. I'm going to hold it in place with my thumb. If you don't have the wire or the star, you can just use a little gold bead, right as I did here on the top. And I'm going to take that, and I'm going to wrap that thinner gauge of the wire right around the top of the tree there. It's going to be a little three-dimensional then that sticks to the front. And because the wire of the star, or the hole of the star, is a little big, I'm going to take that opportunity to take another piece of wire, which is going to make it stay and stabilize a little bit more. And we're going to wrap that down then and end our wire. You can see I have a lot of extra wire. If you want to go back through the tree, you can. I'm going to take that wire then down through, wrap it around the bottom here. Cutting that wire off here. You can go back again over the tree, have fun with that garland. Just get that star back up into place here. Get it right where I want it to be. And then take this extra wire, wrap it around the base. And with your needle nose pliers, it's always helpful if you have those handy. I want to wrap right along the base of one of the sides of the tree. Going through with those needle nose, round nose work for this also. And pulling that wire tight against. And then hiding it right behind my star so it doesn't poke out. And that finishes up my little wire tree. So cute with the star on top. You can look at it and you can wiggle around, again, fit more in, do seed beads, do more crystals. I love the way the crystals pop. And just to show you, for example, that different fit, I know people love to see where it is. Here's my length of my tree. If I hang it down on my earring, here is the length of my pendant. And then even if I want to use this, honestly, it's the holidays, go big, go bold. You can use this as a pendant as well, just like a seed bead or just like an ornament too, can be usually both. So take a look at all the different pendants and patterns for the trees versus the ornaments. And comment below and let us know what materials you're going to use, how big your tree is, and also post pictures in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making of the different styles of trees that you've made. Thanks so much for joining me and having fun creating these little trees that disappear on the green screen, and all the fun that can be had with utilizing and using up tons and tons of different beads. Remember, if you do need any supplies, go ahead and check below the video in the description to shop with us online. If you haven't yet, click that subscribe button so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. As always, thanks for watching, Potomac Beaders, and I'll see you on the next inspirational video.